Good evening, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to round 6 of season 11 here with ACC Race Nation. We're in qualifying for the third way mark of the championship here at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. It's me, Jack Manson, your commentator, as always, in this championship, and as always, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be a part of what is going to be an eventful evening ahead of us. For those that are unaware, it's a 2-hour race for the drivers tonight, and it's going to be an exciting time to see how they all adapt to the lengthier running that we have, and that's going to be interesting to see how everybody is able to work on the strategy, they're able to work on the driving standards, and also adapt to the conditions, because of course a 2-hour race, it's important for the drivers to pace themselves throughout. But at the moment we've got 22 cars roaring around this brilliant circuit here in Austria. For those that are unaware, the Red Bull Ring opened many moons and years ago now, back in 1969, and its 2.6 mile circuit hosts so many different championships. It's been a staple of the community in the GT3 championships, which is great to see. And now we're going to find out how our season 11 drivers are going to get on. We've been following for the last few minutes the number 81 Ford Mustang of Mark Gray, and we'll follow him just as we come around the next corner here at turn number 7. That's Jordan Hard in front of us, just going through. Shot there in the McLaren, turns 6, 7 and 8 just at that point. But I'm really excited to see how the drivers adapt to tonight. This is one of those circuits, of course, where there will be incidents if a driver is a little bit too brave in certain battles on the track. You know, it's something that we don't want to see early on. We don't want to see any incidents because, of course, you know, a 2-hour race, if you have an incident on lap 1, it's going to put you really on the back foot, and that'd be the last thing we'd want to see. Following Hartle Toby, he won last week in the Mustang, and he's leading the championship as well, for that matter. He's had a cracking start to his life with ACC Race Nation, and it was his first win in the championship. So it's really good to see new drivers adapting, getting used to everything with the season. Of course, that was at Laguna Seca over in America. We've crossed over to continental Europe tonight. And one thing to make a note of as well, whilst Hartle goes around the track there, he is going to be carrying ballast for tonight's 2-hour race, so it is going to affect him a little bit in that Mustang. He's going to be carrying effectively 30 kilos. So that's going to be interesting for him to try and lug that around a very heavy Mustang already. So he's going to be carrying 30 kilos of ballast. Stuart Packham, who's in the Bentley, he's going to be carrying 20 kilos. He finished second last time out at Laguna Seca. And then the other driver who will be carrying ballast, I believe, is John Wells, who will be carrying ballast. So amazing to see John score a podium. It's sad that we didn't commentate on that one, but to see John Wells score a podium would have been an incredible thing. But he'll be carrying 15 kilos. Let's get a run through the drivers' standings in qualifying at the minute. So it's Mark Gray, who we were following before, the two Fords at the front of the pack. That doesn't surprise me. It's a strong circuit for the V8 American Thoroughbreds. I'm not surprised to see Mark Chapman up there. He typically has run well in the past at the Red Bull Ring. Just seems to be a circuit that he gels quite well with. And the AMR V8 is always going to be a good car at this track as well. So he's in third place. We've got Michael van der Waal right up there on the second row of the grid. Great effort from him in fourth position. Tony Sokolov in fifth place. You have got then Howard Dunn in sixth at the minute. The timing standings are going to keep changing, but it's good to see Howard Dunn in the third row of the grid at the moment. It's Jordan Harding, and then it is the number 55 of Daniel Hatton. Two McLaren side by side on row 4. Jeffrey Van Buren and Danny Zoutenbayer round out the top 10. Dennis Penders is 11th currently. He's just going to come across the start-finish line, see if he improves. He does not. He'll go on to another lap. Still 12 minutes and 8 seconds remaining in qualifying. On row 6 alongside Dennis Penders at the moment, we've got Nick Lamming, Davy Zoutenbayer, Danny Felix and Jacob Byford-Rue round out the top 15. You've got the 167 of Fabio Matt in the Ferrari 296. Is 16th. Liam Watkinson is 17th. Joe Warner yet to set a valid lap time. That's someone who's just popped up there. Just trying to have a look through. Someone has just jumped up the leaderboard. Rich Jarram's in the pits. Ross Harris is in the pits. Stuart Packham second in the drivers' standings at the moment, thanks to that great result last week at Laguna Seca. Of course, I've said it before with Stuart, he is a former champion. Season 9 for him, back in the Aston Martin, I believe, at the time. So for Packham, can he make a second championship challenge? He didn't able to do that in Season 10, but he's having a good campaign. But as I said before, at the top of the show, it's only the third way mark of the season. You know, this is round 6. Packham doesn't go any quicker. Track limits are going to be important around here as well. Don't forget, track limits can be quite strict at Austria. So we will wait and see if anyone falls foul of that during the race, if they end up having to get any stop and go drive-through penalties. We have seen them before when we've raced around Austria. But it is only a third of the way through the season. We've still got 9 races to go, including this one. Let's get back out there. Let's get onto some onboard camera shots. We'll try and find a driver who we can run on a lap with. Ah, that's good timing. We can go on board of Howard Dunn then. We come towards turn 1, and so the Aston Martin banging through the gears up to second at the moment. Great effort that from Howard. You've got to break at the 100-metre marker, down into second gear. Make sure the car is nice and tidy to the apex, which he has done. Had a little slide out of the corner, which has cost him about a tenth of a second. Up through the gears across turn 2, which is kind of here. Not really a corner, but it is classified as one. And then spot your braking zone at the 100-metre marker, again using all of the track and more on the left-hand side. Clips the apex really nicely. A little bit of a kick of the tyres on the exit of turn 3. That's a nice run so far, and he's gained that time back. Turn 4 is of course blind, so you've got to be careful in terms of not braking too late, which Howard doesn't look like he's done that. He's actually nailed the apex there. This is another improvement on this lap. Oh, a kick of oversteer on the exit. Just about gets away with that. Turn 5 is the right-hander, and it's all about prepping for the downhill left-hander at 6. He's got to, again, run as close to the curb as he possibly can. Try not to wash too wide, or you'll end in the gravel, which he has done, and that's going to put him down on his lap time. Turn 7, he's going to have gravel on his tyres. He runs a little bit further wide. Turn 8 is this right-hander, so he's going to have to line himself up to go again, as Mark Gray has been shuffled down to second place. He was on provisional pole. Turn 9 at the Jochen Rink curve. Third gear for the AMR, and then down into the final corner, which is always getting away from the drivers. If you don't get the line right, you do end up understeering wide. But apart from that, moving into the gravel, you'd say that Howard Dunn's got more time to find. Could we see him on the front row of the grid? It'd be fantastic to see him up there. Yeah, the South African, he finished 6th last week at Laguna Seca. So he's in a rich vein of form at the moment. Let's just have a look. Is it? I thought it was. It is Hartel Toby, the German driver, on provisional pole at the moment by less than a tenth of a second. But those Mustangs just seem to be firing on all cylinders. And for Hartel Toby, he's carrying 30 kilos. At a track like this, I would argue that it's not going to affect him too much, really. So he's won his last race at the right time, really, to carry this extra weight. As Mark Chapman now moves into provisional pole with 7 minutes 43 on the clock. Chappers was leading the practice session we were running just before this race, so that's stomping his authority again in the Aston, a 111. And the big question is, can Mark Chapman win a championship? I think, I'm not talking about championship favourites or anything like that. I don't want to put any pressure on any of the drivers, but you would look at Chappers and say he's a driver who's capable of winning one. I say it quite often, and I feel like it will happen sooner rather than later. But is this big super season going to be the time when it happens? We'll have to wait and see. He's fifth in the driver's standings at the moment. It's about 20 points off the top, but a long way to go yet in this championship, as I've already noted. Mark Gray running in third. There's Howard Dunn. Michael van der Waal still sitting inside the top 5. He's really got a good showing in so far. There's certain tracks for van der Waal where he's very, very quick. And considering that we haven't seen much of him so far this season, as the reigning champion puts himself into 5th place, that's Danny's Outen by. I can't see where Michael van der Waal is. It says he's not in the pits, but we can clearly see him there. And, van der Waal, the Dutchman, he retired from last race. He couldn't start round 3. We've only seen him at round 1, sadly. But he is a driver who is hunting that podium finish that he so definitely deserves. Will it be tonight? You just never know. Tony Sokolov in 7th place at the moment. He's just going to come across the line now in the Ferrari. No improvement just yet, but he might have just come out of the pits. We'll just have to wait and see how the Croatian does. Now, Sokolov is third. Well, let me rephrase that. Sokolov has not finished off the podium in every race that he's finished. The problem that he has is that he retired from round 3 and he didn't race last week at Laguna Seca, so he's playing catch up. But he's 7th at the moment. Half a second away. I'd argue that the Ferraris, this might not necessarily be their strongest circuit. I've also just noticed that Howard Dunn and Danny Zoutenbayer set the exact same lap time. That's incredible. Chappers has gone quicker as well, so he is finding his groove in the Gulf-inspired 111 livery. Comes round the final corner. Nice line that actually from Chappers, but he runs a touch wide on the exit, and I think if he does improve, it wouldn't have been a valid lap time, so not ideal. Let's just ride back on board. Let's go on board, but have it from this point of view. Van der Waal just coming across the line. He's 6th at the moment. Sokolov, the next driver to come along and cross the start-finish line. That's a bit better. He's onto the 2nd row of the grid. But again, that's still a bit of a time gap to our provisional pole sitter with less than 5 minutes to go. John Wells just coming towards the start-finish line. He's 12th at the minute, carrying, don't forget, that 10 kilo of extra weight. It's about the same as John's Sunday joint. As Jeffrey Van Buren pops himself up into 4th place. That's a timely effort from Van Buren. I think he'll be pleased with that. Don't forget, Jeffrey, won the first race back at the start of the championship, but we've not seen him finish inside the top 10 since then. It's absolutely crazy. He's had a number of incidents he's been involved in. But I think tonight he'll really, really want to try and correct that statistic. Jordan Arden just inside the top 10. The top 10 all within 7 tenths. Really competitive qualifying at the moment. The top 11 within a second. And then you've got the second group of John Wells, Penders, Nick Lamming, Danny Felix, Fabio Matt, Byford Rue within 2 seconds. Ross Harris, I think, can go quicker than that. Joe Warner's not far off the pace either, which is really nice to see. He's in front of Liam Watkinson, which should be chuffed about. Rich Jarram, I believe, is serving a qualifying ban. I could be incorrect on that. But we're still waiting a lap time from the Bentley boy himself. Sokolov's gone up to 2nd. That's a really strong time in the Ferrari. I wasn't expecting the Ferraris to get inside the top 3 and break the stronghold by Ford and Aston Martin, but there we go. Croatian proving otherwise. Here comes John Wells again across the line. 0.02 of a second down on his best time. 2 minutes 40 remaining in the session. There's Byford Rue in the 467 in what I'm going to call the Tron-inspired car. I don't think Joe Warner's going to come back out again. Still waiting for a lap time from Packham, and I wonder if he's starting from the back. That's something I'm questioning at the moment. Harris is yet to do the lap time. Davies out and by again, the only Nissan in the field. He's in 11th. I quite like the Dayglow yellow on that, actually. It's a nice livery that he's running, as Fabio Matt goes out for one final flying lap. Gets up to speed. There's Liam Watkinson. He's in 20th place at the moment. Van der Waal is not on an improvement, nor is Dan Felix at the minute. We're watching the 55 of Dan Hatton. He's matching his time at the moment after the first 3 corners. But can the not-so Skoda make an improvement? He's just a fractionally up at the moment. Is the 55. We'll watch him as we approach turn number 7 down through the gears. If he keeps this nice and tidy, he's going to find at least a tenth of a second, which could move him up a couple of spots. He's just got to make sure he gets these last 2 corners right. They're really challenging, these final 2 corners of the lap. Can he get himself just a little bit higher up? It's an improvement, a tiny wiggle on the final corner, but he's going to improve by almost 2 tenths here. Is it enough to get into the top 6? It isn't. It's enough to get into 8th, though. It's a good effort from Dan Hatton. We've got less than a minute to go, so I'm going to return to this perspective. Sokolov has got pole position. That's an incredible effort from the Ferrari. He's still pushing to go faster. Chappers can't respond to that. He's going to stay in 2nd place. Hartle-Toby, I think, has returned to the pits. Mark Gray is done. So now it comes down to the rest of the field. The next driver coming to the final corner is Jordan Harding in the number 16 McLaren. He comes around the final corner. He's kept it with track limits. He's got one more lap he can do here. But will this be an improvement? It is. It puts him into 9th place. Sokolov goes across the line. He doesn't improve. I think, I thought it was Howard Dunn crossing the line. He didn't see the checkered flag, so he's got one more lap that he can set. So just moving down the field, it's the 187 of Jeffrey Van Buren, flinging the car through the final corner. Can he get himself onto the front row of the grid? He can get himself to 3rd for Van Buren. Nick Lammin sees the checkered flag. Just looking, I think that's Ross Harris coming across the line. So that means it comes back then to a fight between the 2 McLarens of Dan Hatton. And that's a great effort from Hatton. That's on the 3rd row of the grid. He's going to be delighted with that. Great lap time to put himself up there. Watkinson coming towards the line. Can he get in front of Joe Warner? No, he can't. That's qualifying done for the other McLaren of the field. Jacob Byford, I think, is going into the pits by the looks of things. Yes, so it all comes down to Jordan Harding. Can he get himself on the next row again? I think it looks like he's going into the pits. Yeah, he is. That's that done then for the McLaren driver. So it's Tony Sokolov. I didn't expect the Ferrari pole position. I don't think anybody did, but that is a great lap from the Croatian. Said before, every race he's finished, he's not finished outside of the podium. And he's on pole position again. So the 100 is on pole. It's Mark Chapman in 2nd place. Hartle-Toby is 3 tenths back in the Mustang, carrying that weight, don't forget, of his ballast. Row 2 is completed by Jeffrey Van Buren, Mark Gray, and of course Daniel Hatton are on row 3. Then in 7th and 8th place you have, of course, Howard Dunn and our reigning champion Danny Zoutenbayer. Within 6 tenths of a second, Michael van der Waal and Jordan Harding round out the top 10. Davy Zoutenbayer, the only driver outside of the top 10 to be within a second of pole position at this race. So the Nissan is 11th. John Wells is 12th, 5 thousandths of a second quicker than Dennis Penders, who's on row number 7, alongside Nick Lamming. Danny Felix and Fabio Matt make up row 8. Jacob Byford-Rue, the last of the drivers, inside 2 seconds. Really good effort that from Byford-Rue, actually, in the M4. Ross Harris completes row 9. Joe Warner and Liam Watkinson are on row 10 in 19th and 20th place. And then not setting a valid lap time, you have the two of Rich Jarram and the Bentley boy himself, Stuart Packham. Okay, I'm just going to give myself a breather. We will go into the race very shortly. Welcome back, everyone. For what will be a 2-hour race here, the first of the 3 2-hour races that we've got ahead of us in season 11, a season that starts in 2025 and finishes in 2026 at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. We've just had news that sadly Hartle Toby, who had qualified really strongly, is out of the race. He's disconnected. That's a massive shame to see him go. And the worst thing as well, of course, for those that are unaware of the championship standings at the moment, he's the championship leader. So he's disconnected and he's out of the race, which is an absolute travesty. So our championship leader is going to lose that championship lead, unfortunately. And it's all going to come down to the chasing pack as to whether or not they can pull this off. And I will give you the top 10 in the driver's standings. Let me just find our pole sitter. There he is, Tony Sokolov. Let's go through the top 10 in the driver's standings. It is Hartle Toby at the moment on 112 points, leading the way in the championship. He's 7 points clear of Stuart Packham in second place. Simon Whiting, who isn't here tonight and wasn't here last week either, he's on 102 points in third place. Our reigning champion, Danny Zoutenbayer, is fourth on 101. Mark Chapman is fifth on 92 points, so a big chance for him tonight to close the gap up. Davey Zoutenbayer in that Nissan is sixth at the minute on 91 points, tied with Colin Gallagher, who's not here this evening, unfortunately. Tony Sokolov is eighth on 91 points, so those three, Davey Zoutenbayer, Colin Gallagher, and Tony Sokolov, they're all on 91 points. Dennis Penders is ninth on 88, and Mark Gray, who starts fourth, he is 10th in the driver's standings on 86 points. Inside the top 5 of the grid at the minute, I can't return back to the garage, but Jeffrey Van Buren, he's third on the grid. He's 11th in the driver's standings currently. And just looking a little bit further back, I think, of course, yes, I am correct on that, about the driver who is in the McLaren. I can't seem to see on the... That's a bit of a peculiar one. Dan Hatton is not on the... there he is. Dan Hatton is 16th. He's qualified inside the top 5, but he's 16th in the driver's standings. Finished 4th at round 4. which we commentated on at the time, which was at Zolder. Can he get another good result like that today? 2 hours, though, it's not for the faint-hearted. It won't be easy for the drivers. We'll ride on board. Oh, as Jeffrey Van Buren and Hatton almost run into the back of one another. We'll ride from the perspective, effectively, of Tony Sokolov, but we have got Jeffrey Van Buren there we can cut to as well. We've got Danny Zoutenbayer in the middle of the top 10, so we've got a couple of cars we can switch over to when this 2-hour race gets underway in just a few seconds time. If you're watching in the chat, do let me know who you think is going to win this race. We've got a really exciting one in front of us. Hello to everyone who is watching. 2 hours of the Red Bull Ring starts now. The race is live here at Austria. It's neck and neck towards turn 1, but I think Sokolov's going to be able to cover that going into the first corner, but Chappers is so late on the brakes and he takes the lead into turn 1. Michael van der Wal was side by side with the Aston Martin of Howard Dunn there as they approach that corner. We've got a car in the pits. That's Hartle Toby. I think he's managed to get in control of his car, so that's brilliant news. A yellow flag further back for John Wells, but everyone's going in a straight line, which is the most important thing. Into turn 3, the big braking zone on this circuit. Everyone looks at the moment like they're getting through okay. Yeah, Hartle Toby is in control of his car, so he's back in the race, which is great to see, the championship leader, but he's at the back of the field. Under pressure, Chapman from Sokolov there into turn 4. And I'm looking at Jordan Harding on the inside of Howard Dunn, who's been shuffled back a little bit at the start of this race. There's John Wells in 20th position. Let's get on board with the drivers. There's Sokolov there in 2nd place. Putting the pressure on the Aston Martin in front of us. Hatton's up to 4th. It's a good start from him. Mark Gray's gone backwards. He's not had an ideal start. He was inside the top 4. He's now 7th. Lost a few spaces, but it's early days. Very early days at the minute. Davey Zoutenbayer running in 8th place. He'll be happy with that start. As everyone filters their way through the final corner. Ross Harris has also had a very good start. He's up to 13th place. And Stuart Packham from the back of the grid, running in 16th and looking to get past Joe Warner. A couple of drivers have had a really strong start. And here comes Packham to the inside at turn 1. He is there, but he's going to have to brake a little bit earlier. Didn't really look like an overtaking opportunity. Looked like quite close between Jeffrey Van Buren. Yeah, it was indeed. He was looking at the back of the McLaren. It was Danny Zoutenbayer, and I think that was the McLaren of Michael van der Wal running a touch wide. He's got away with that. But Danny Zoutenbayer looking feisty in these early stages. The champion from season 10 wants to get that crown back. He's going to go up the inside at turn 4, but he breaks a little bit earlier and decides better off it. Good start for Fabio Matt up to 12th. That's Stuart Packham up the inside of Joe Warner. Thanks to the outboard cameras, we've managed to get, there he goes, into what should be 15th place. I think the timing tower has not yet updated, but Chapper's already streaking out to an advantage. He's nearly a second clear of the 2 Ferraris, so Jeffrey Van Buren's going with them as well. Then it's Hatton in 4th place. He's got a nice train of cars right behind him. He's got a train of cars from 4th place, which is where he is, to 14th. Danny Felix, all within a second of one another. But I think Ross Harris has just dropped off the back of that group. Yeah, he has. So it's an 8-car train behind the McLaren at the moment, headed by a McLaren, finished off by a Ferrari. But again, we're only on lap 3 of this 2-hour event. There's a long way to go. That's Danny Zoutenbayer looking like he's under pressure from Van der Wal there. Under extreme pressure, in fact, Davey Zoutenbayer looking for a way past if he can. The McLaren down the inside, but Zoutenbayer breaks a little bit later. Byford Roos getting lapped, so not sure what's happened to the BMW M4. It's a sad thing, really, to see him being lapped already. But he was just trying to get out of everybody's way. But this is a nice little fight here. It's allowed Hatton to pull away, actually. He's a second clear, which is perfect for him. And John Wells is going to go a lap down. So clearly the M4 is the only two of the three M4s have made contact. Oh, Van der Waal had a little snap of oversteer. I think that's the Nissan going through. Yeah, Zoutenbayer has got himself up to 6th place, so it's brother and brother in the top 6 there. One in the Ferrari, one in the Nissan. And Davey, he's had a fantastic start. The Dutchman up to 6th. He started 11th, don't forget. Making the moves. Jordan Harding got through on Van der Waal. He just got onto the marbles, did the McLaren, and it just ran him out wide. And now he's under pressure from Mark Gray, who's also recovering himself from not the ideal start, is what we would describe it as. Tony Manley in the pits there. I think Tony Manley's come in and joined late, so it's good to see him out there on circuit. Even if it's going to be a few laps down, he's still going to score points. Here comes the Bentley. Nice run from Stewart. I think this is going to be a straightforward move. That Bentley is electric in a straight line, and from 22nd on the grid up to 13th, this is the biggest mover in the biggest car. Pack him in 13th place. There's Davies Zoutenbayer. Got a stop and go penalty for Nick Lamming, so it's not started off well for him either. We didn't see the incident at the start, but clearly it's took the two M4s and the McLaren of Lamming out of contention. John Wells is the BMW in front of us here, in front of Zoutenbayer, in front of Davies' brother. But he's just trying to run his own race, and out of the way goes the M4. You could argue he should have probably let the brother through as well, but Jordan right behind them. I think he'll get out of the way on this straight, I reckon. Then Watkinson running in 17th place. Van der Waal just having a few struggles early on. He's got Mark Gray on his rear bumper. You don't want the Mustang on your bumper. You need to have a really strong exit. Oh, he's got it all wrong. And Van der Waal slips down the field. And in fact, I think that's going to be the McLaren getting overtaken by Howard Dunn as well, who's trying to get two positions in two corners. I don't think the Aston Martin's got the same straight line speed. And oh, Van der Waal's going to get that. Oh, I thought he'd braked a little bit too late there. But Michael clearly having some difficulties. He's slid back from a solid start. So all's not quite right in the McLaren. He's inside the top 10 still. Just needs to try and figure out what those problems are and see if he can resolve them. There's Danny Felix in 15th place. I think Hartle Toby has disconnected again. Yeah, it looks like he has, sadly. So Hartle Toby, after getting back in and getting onto the back of the pack and making a few moves, sadly it seems he's going to be permanently out of this race, which is a massive shame. This is not a shame though. This is a great fight between Harris and Felix for 14th place. Ride on the helmet cam with the man looking for a spot in front of him. Oh, a little bit of understeer for the Porsche, but the Tanny followed him through in a similar line, and Harris is going to stay in front in this fight for now. Tell you what, Hatton is doing a really good job keeping up with Van Buren here. He's really keeping him honest. Can he get a podium? Is it possible? Is the potential there? Does the McLaren have the race pace to be able to mount a challenge to the Ferrari in front of him? You know, right now, Hatton is matching his best result of the season in 4th, where he got in Zolder. Can he improve on that? Can he get a first podium with ACC Race Nation? Big fight going on between the Zoutenbayers, and they've swapped places. So Davey Zoutenbayer moves into 5th place. He's on an absolute mission in the Nissan. Doesn't matter if he's the only one sending back data to the factory team. He is turning it into a proficient weapon. And he's moved up from 11th to 5th. So really positive start for the number 18. I think Jordan Harding at the moment, he'll be happy with 7th. He's got himself into a good rhythm. He's not been involved in any incidents. As we tick over to the first 10 minutes of the action so far. The gap's just starting to appear a little bit in the field. Everyone pretty much in the top 10 apart from Danny Zoutenbayer setting a 1:29. Obviously John Wells is a lap down, so it's a little bit inaccurate where his timing tower position is. Just thought for a moment that was an overtake happening, but it wasn't. It was the M4 of John Wells just getting out of the way of Mark Gray, who is now in 8th place. And we can finally see whether the Ford has some speed. And for Mark Gray, it's a big opportunity for him to score another result inside the top 10. He's got a 3rd place back at round 3. He was on the podium. And he was saying at the time he was disappointed that I wasn't commentating on him. But let's see if he can get a podium tonight. It's not out of the realms of impossibility. The field is still, the top 10 is still relatively close together. You can see that Jeffrey Van Buren just goes out of shot, the Ferrari, just up the road from us. So it's not exactly a 2-car fight for 3rd place. You could look at these 5 cars, these 5 drivers, and say that they're in a podium hunt as it stands. Sokolov keeping Chapman honest at the minute, 1.2 seconds the gap, but those two are in a class act of their own. They're 4 seconds clear of Jeffrey Van Buren. Who's a second clear of Daniel Hatton, who's a second clear of Davy Zoutenbayer, and Jordan Harding is not a second behind Danny Zoutenbayer, who cuts across to the one side. Jordan's going to have to go to the inside then at turn 3. He's going to have to try and brake a little bit later in the McLaren. I think Jordan will be a bit annoyed at that. He got pinched on the approach to turn 3. I think Jordan will be having words with Tani about that one. Strong words in the helmet, of course. After the separation earlier, I think I was just about to say, the separation of Mark Gray and Howard Dunn, they've swapped places on circuit. So Howard Dunn, don't forget, he qualified inside the top 6, had a bit of a tentative start and dropped down the field. Can he bring Mark Gray with him? Can he bring those two back into contention for a spot inside the top 6, maybe even a podium? Van der Waal is in 10th place. He's 6 seconds off the battle for what is a podium potentially, and then Stuart Packham's up to 11th, so he's still making progress in the Bentley. With this being a 2-hour race, he's got a lot more time to try and catch up to the drivers in front of him. Fabio Matt is running well just behind Dennis Penders, who's, looks like Dennis has got a bit of damage on the back of the Ferrari. Hopefully we get another camera angle of that. We might get it through. There's a yellow flag. It's John Wells who's gone round at turn 1. Yeah, there you go. A little bit of damage to the back of the Ferrari. There's John Wells just re-emerging onto the track. So the ACC Race Nation boss will be a bit frustrated that the opening 15 minutes have not gone the way that he would have wanted it to have done. Ross Harris still under pressure from Danny Felix, who's carrying a little bit of damage to the front of the 985 McLaren. Doesn't look like he's hit the back of Ross Harris, but he definitely has hit something. Rich Jarram's doing a good job in the Lamborghini. We haven't seen him really in qualifying because he didn't take part. But it's a solid drive from the 878 in 16th position. Joe Warner's doing a cracking job too. He's in 17th. John Wells is a lap down, as is Byford Rue. Watkinson's back in the pits for something that has gone on. Nick Lamming is re-emerging. Tony Manley started the race late, but he has joined in. So the 318 AMR V8, despite being 4 laps down, is going to make sure he scores some points as Joe Warner decides to run a little bit wide on the marbles at turn number 6. I'll tell you what, Davies out and by his qualifying maybe wasn't representative of his race pace because he's found some speed in the number 18 Nissan. Can we have two siblings potentially winning the championship back to back? I mean, it's never happened before. You know, every single race he's done this season, Davey has finished inside the top 10. He's running in I'd say a career best 5th place with ACC Race Nation right now. Fabulous effort in the opening 15 minutes of the race. We didn't see it, but Jordan Harding has got past Danny Zoutenbayer, so maybe the Ferrari, the way that Ferrari is set up, perhaps is chewing through its tyres a little bit in these early stages. Oh, what's happened to Howard Dunn? What's happened to Mark Gray? Mark Gray's just going backwards. Yeah, I think Howard Dunn and Mark Gray have had a coming together because they're no longer 8th and 9th. I was saying before that they're probably in with an outside chance of getting onto the podium. But I think they've had a coming together and they're 12th and 13th, so a disaster for those two. They're a lot quicker than that. Dunn looks to try and go up the inside. Thinks better of it. Slots back into place. That puts Stuart Packham up into 9th position. Just looking at the gap. What's the gap between Michael van der Waals? 11 seconds to Danny Zoutenbayer. And then Packham's 9th. He's 14 seconds away from Danny Zoutenbayer. So let's have a look at the lap times at the moment. It is of course still very early days. I am keeping an eye on that fight for 4th place. Last couple of laps, 120. I think a little bit of fresh air now. Oh, Davey Zoutenbayer was looking to move it. Hat in there. This is more important than lap times. Let's have a look at that. So JPH, Jordan Harding, is running behind that. We just flick our way through the cars. We will eventually get to what we're after. There he is. So there is the red and yellow McLaren. That's a really good run this from Davey. He's going to be close. He's going to look to the inside at turn 3. On the brakes, can he go a little bit later than the McLaren? The answer to that question is a firm yes. And Davey Zoutenbayer moves into 4th position. What a drive so far. He has found some form from qualifying. He's really putting the hammer down and taking the fight to these guys. Can he go after Jeffrey Van Buren? Can he get a podium? Still early days, but my goodness, what a result that would be. That would be a wonderful moment in the Zoutenbayer household, because I know that they all watch. But it is good action so far. Groups have just sort of split out a little bit. Davey Zoutenbayer now, what can he go and do? The driver in front of him, it's 29.6 from Sokolov, 29.9 and 29.6 from Zoutenbayer, so looks like he's got the pace. So we just watch as Van der Waal comes through. I wanted to check the lap times of Van der Waal and Packham compared to the front pack. It's a 30.8 from Van der Waal, a 29.6 from Packham, so he's lapping at the same speed as the leaders. Looks like Van der Waal's just having some struggle. It looks like there's some form of balance setting that just isn't right on that car. Does seem to be a little bit more skittish than the other McLarens I've noticed. Just doesn't look as easy to drive as his competitors, as Mark Gray is now running behind Fabio Matt. He's got Howard Dunn with him. Probably need to change that camera angle actually, just so it's a little bit further away, otherwise you get the massive name tag in front of us, which isn't representative. But Dennis Penders with his damage to the back of the guy, still inside the top 10. Fabio Matt, Mark Gray and Howard Dunn make up the trio battling over the last spot outside of the top 10. Howard Dunn's going to run a touch wide, but he's gone away with it. Danny Felix and Ross Harris are still fighting over 14th place. They've not swapped places. And Rich Jarram's not far away from them either. That's a really, really strong drive from the Hurricane, the only Hurricane in the field. But Jarram is catching these two. This might make it an interesting three-car fight. Joe Warner's on his own in 17th place, but I don't believe... I'm just looking at... Yeah, he's not been lapped. And I know people might be thinking, oh, that sounds a bit surprising, but it's really nice to see Joe Warner pushing the way that he is at the minute. And he is a prime example. I always try and pick on drivers who are a prime example of you don't necessarily have to be the quickest driver when you first join a racing league. It's all about development, it's all about improving. And he's doing that. He's doing a really solid job. And, you know, first time we watched him and we commentated on him a while ago now, you know, after the first 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes he'd be close to getting lapped. But now, really strong effort. I'm putting in some solid lap times, but we'll cut away from him because we don't want to give him any commentator's curse as he almost oversteers out of turn 3. That's your battle for the race lead. It's still relatively tight, 1.4 seconds the gap between Chapman and Sokolov. Then Jeffrey Van Buren and Davies out by it, who is catching Van Buren. Outstanding. See if he can keep it up. These guys, in terms of Jordan Harding, Daniel Hatton, Danny Zoutenbayer, they're spread out a touch, but I'll tell you who isn't spread out. Stuart Packham right now is right under the rear diffuser of that McLaren in front of us. Nice tidy line through turn 1. The Bentley should be able to, with the slipstream, breeze past the McLaren up towards turns 2 and 3. And he's closing. Is he going to dart to the inside? He is. On the brakes for the 108. And through he goes. And Vanderbilt, I think, didn't mean to make it that easy. I think he did mean to move over, but he kind of jumped out of the way. I think he got it on the brakes a little bit wrong and went onto the marbles. So that's a change for 8th place. And so far, Stuart Packham has made up 14 places as Vanderbilt runs wide again. So now, for Packham, he's going to have a direct comparison to the group in front of him. We'll cut back to him later on. I just want to see what the gap is at the moment between himself and Danny Zoutenbayer. 14.4 seconds. Let's see how that gap develops over the coming 1 hour and 37 minutes. I said Rich Jarram was going to catch up to them. He has done. But Ross Harris and Danny Felix and Rich Jarram are now separated on circuit. I have to say, at the last split, as Jarram goes through the gravel, the Lamborghini was only a 10th behind the McLaren. I wonder if they've had a coming together. Oh, it's Tony Manley in the lapped Aston Martin got that all wrong and crossed up on the Exeter turn. And Davies out by his through. Just to cut back to... I said he was catching up to Jeffrey Van Buren. He's gone past him. Can he get his first podium? I mean, I'm rooting for him because I always root for an underdog. And, you know, Davies probably had to listen to his brother talk about his championship and all the amazing things that siblings do and how they like to lord it over one another. But this is Davies' chance to potentially pick up a podium, but he's got some competition behind him. Jeffrey Van Buren, race winner. Jordan Harding. a brilliantly competitive driver. Season 9 runner-up, don't forget, Jordan Harden. He knows how to race. Dan Hatton looking for that podium. He's not too far away. Danny's out by his Davy's brother's just a little bit further back in shot. These 5 have all stayed together, relatively speaking, but they've just swapped places. Into turn 1 they go. Nissan just seems to get really strong drive out of the slower corners. Seems to be really, really punchy. I think Van Buren, yeah, I thought he was. He's actually defending from Harding here. So was my pre-race theory about the Ferrari's race pace fading away starting to come to fruition, because Jordan Harden's on the inside as they come towards turn 4, and this should be relatively straightforward on the brakes for the McLaren driver, but Van Buren goes all the way around the outside. It's going to be a battle of the traction zone. I think Jordan Harden just going to be ahead, but Van Buren I think will try and lunge late down the inside at turn 6. They lean on one another, but the Ferrari just stays in front. But Davies out and by it gets a nice little reprieve. Bit wide that from Van Buren. He's going to put himself under pressure at turn 9. You can see the McLaren trying to get alongside, but take a brave man to try and do an overtake at turn 9 around the outside. I thought Jordan was going to try and jump underneath the rear wing at turn 10. Nice exit from the McLaren. And he's going to go to the inside and ride on it from the dashboard of the Ferrari. He does turn into the corner, so Jordan was not quite close enough on that occasion. Nice exit though this time from the McLaren. Really strong. Seemingly the rear of the car on the Ferrari just doesn't have the traction zone compared to oh, he's really defending hard as Van Buren, but Jordan backs out of it in the McLaren. And Van Buren I think is going to move across now. He should be aware that he's got space to the McLaren, but look at the gap. Look at the gap between himself and Zoutenbayer. They fought so hard over the last 2 laps. The Dutchman has got a 2.6 second advantage over this group, and it's not a duo anymore. If we cut to this external shot, there's the other team. Hatton and Zoutenbayer are right there. Oh, it's exciting. We're just coming up to 30 minutes into this race, a quarter of the event down. Oh, that's a big slide through the final corner. Is Jordan Harden going to be close enough? He's going to go to the inside at turn 1. I think he was balked a little bit and couldn't get through. But I think Jeffrey Van Buren's tyres are disappearing. He's wide again at turn 1. I think that's a huge crack of oversteer from the McLaren behind. Harding just holds on to it, but he's going to have Hatton on him now instead. Look at this. I'm amazed that the number 16 held on to that. That was a huge slide through turn 1. I thought that was going to end in disaster, but alas, it didn't. But you can see Harding's pushing. He wants to get on with this. You can see that Zoutenbayer's up the road. Oh, that's wide from Hatton, and through goes Danny Zoutenbayer. So that's a change for 6th place. That's a move completed. Rich Jarram is in front of Ross Harris and Danny Felix in the meantime. We cut through to the closest fight on circuit, which is between Van Buren and Jordan Harden for 4th spot. Kind of a critical time now for these two to stop fighting too much, because they're gonna lose more time to the Nissan in front. I'm just looking, I'm wondering if Davies out by is catching the front two. Gonna keep an eye on that. It's 10.2 seconds at the moment. Oh, look at that. It was a great exit out of turn 1. Can Harding go through this time? To the outside for turn number 3. The McLaren draws level with the Ferrari. Headlights ablaze. Brakes a little bit earlier than the Ferrari. He's going to try and do the undercut if he can. Nice switchback. And gets on the power nice and early. But Van Buren's wise to it and cuts across. Harding will still be in the slipstream. He's going to look to the outside at turn number 4. Again, it would be a brave man that goes around the outside. But Harding and Van Buren giving each other enough racing room. That could be a good move. But Harding just can't get on the power quickly enough. Van Buren defends the place and then goes onto the grass, actually. That's going to compromise him. He's going to have dirty wheels. Oh, and as that happened, Harding had a mid-corner snap of oversteer. Just couldn't find his way past. If I just flick down, these two are just watching with vested interest. They're hoping that Harding and Van Buren take each other out. Gap at the front, by the way, has stayed the same. It is stabilised at 1.3 seconds. No changes at the minute. Oh, both of them putting the absolute limits to the business end there. Wow. Van Buren defends once again into turn 3. Harding looks to the outside line. Brakes again earlier than the Ferrari. Bit of oversteer for Van Buren, but his car's right in the way. Harding can't find a way past. To the outside line goes the McLaren at turn 4. He's trying everything, Harding, to find a way through. You feel that if he gets past Van Buren, there's going to be no way that the Ferrari's going to be able to keep up. It looks like he's struggling a little bit at the minute. He runs wide on the exit at turn number 6, but again, there's just no way through. Oh, a little bit of oversteer. He's managing just to block really, really well. He's making small mistakes, is Van Buren, but he's keeping the place, and Jordan's having to defend now from Danny Zoutenbayer. Apologies for any background noise there, as I just put a fan on. This is absolutely gung-ho stuff as Zoutenbayer goes onto the grass. Let's see if we can just get the viewpoint of JPH so we can see the onboard camera. There we go. On board with the McLaren. Inside the driver's helmet. You can see he's alongside the Ferrari. Here we go then, once again. And Zoutenbayer's defending from Hatton. They go 2 by 2. Trying the outside line. This might be a good idea for Harding. He's got a good run off the exit. He's going to be in front of the Ferrari. It all comes down to straight line speed. And I think the McLaren's just going to be in front. He's going to try, is he, Van Buren? He's going to keep the door open, is Harding. And Van Buren just slides up the inside. But you feel Jordan's going to have the inside for turn 6. You feel that he's going to have this move completed, but Van Buren still hangs on. Great driving, great action, but Harding seals the position. It's took a number of laps, but he moves into the head of this train, and Harding is in 4th place, in front of Van Buren, in front of Zoutenbayer, and in front of Hatton. And now what is the pace of the McLaren? It's going to have to be good because he's got to get a move on. 1 minute 30.0 from Davy Zoutenbayer on that last lap, and practically the same for JPH whilst making an overtake. So it's now down to the McLaren. What can he do? Can he stay in front of Jeffrey Van Buren for a start and try and reel off some quick laps to bridge a gap to the Nissan? Down through the gears for the Ferrari. He's not quite close enough, but Van Buren has now got the attention turned back towards Danny Zoutenbayer and Hatton. I will say this much, I said before, I'd keep an eye on the gap between Stuart Packerman and this group. He has closed up by 3.5 seconds as Rich Jarron picks up a drive-through penalty for track limits. I did say before the race started we'd see that. And sadly for Rich, he's the first driver to fall foul of it in his fight to try and catch up to the back of Fabio Metz, who's running in 13th position. Give myself just a quick moment. I can fill up some water because I've clearly ran through all of my water already. It's been so much action already. So, Jeffrey Van Buren under pressure now from Danny Zoutenbayer. He won't move to the inside, and Danny Zoutenbayer won't do anything silly. He won't try and dive all the way up the inside. We'll watch it from the perspective there with Daniel Hatton, because Zoutenbayer on the grass, the second time we've seen him in as many laps, dipping a wheel onto the grass, and Jeffrey Van Buren having to brake and defend early into turn 4. Zoutenbayer trying to go on the curb and undercut the 187 Ferrari, but it didn't look like that move was on. Michael van der Waal now has the battling duo of Howard Dunn and Mark Gray, who've been together all the way through this race, but they're 11th and 12th now on their recovery drives. Ross Harris is still fighting on. He's got Fabio Matt half a second behind him. Stuart Packham is 10.6 seconds behind Hatton now, so he is getting that gap down. Joe Warner still doing a great job. Only just now been lapped, actually. 36 minutes into the race, so well done, Joe. Strong drive from him thus far. He's on for a really strong result as well in 16th place. Chappers has had the gap closed down by Tony Sokolov. That's less than a second. Well, it was briefly, it's not now, it's just back over a second, so just keep a close watching brief on that one. Oh, Jeffrey Van Buren under big pressure, he's on the wrong line into turn number 3, and Zoutenbayer is going to slide up the inside, but he got it wrong on the exit, and he's going to get overtaken. He was in the right place, but he just got on the power too soon. The car snapped oversteer, and he loses a place rather than looking to gain one, which is unfortunate. Jeffrey Van Buren, I feel like he's having a big defensive drive here, is Van Buren. He's doing his utmost to try and hang on, but frustratingly for Zoutenbayer, he's tried to move forward, but on a number of occasions it's just slipped backwards. Hatton slipped backwards a bit there. He didn't have a good run at all through turn 7. Thankfully for his sake, Zoutenbayer, I think, was more filling the mirrors of the McLaren there rather than looking to attempt a legitimate overtake at turn 9. That McLaren just starting to slide a little bit now. The tyres will certainly be crying at this point. You do see the drivers do the normal 1 hour races. Typically they will make a pit stop, but some drivers will try and hang on to the tyres for the whole race and save a couple of seconds in the pits. And I think today everyone's going to learn how to try and do that. Otherwise we'll be seeing drivers making 3 pit stops in this race rather than just the 1. This is still the closest fight on circuit. Very, very close battle. Zoutenbayer runs a little bit deep. Oh, he's on the gravel again. I'm not really sure what Zoutenbayer's doing tonight. He does seem to be having an affection for the grass and the gravel trap. bit of a peculiar one, to be honest with you. I don't know if he thinks he's on a golf course, but maybe that's what maybe he thinks he's driving a golf buggy and he needs to be putting the car on the green. Firmly needs to be putting it on the black stuff. Does our reigning champion? He has flirted with the bunker and the green a couple of times already in this race so far, but he's in 7th, still doing a good job. And again, bagging points is the key here in this championship. It's such a long season with 15 races. This is race number 6. We had the 3rd distance mark in the championship last week at Laguna Seca. These next 5 races are kind of key for shaping the championship, really, I feel. We've still got 2 more 2-hour races after this one. And they will be at round 10 and round number 15. I would just like to say that I will be commentating on round number 15 for the 2-hour finale at the Nordschleife. Actually, I should say that it's round 12 that the other 2-hour race is happening. At first, I believed it was round 10, but they've actually moved it to round 12, which will be at Spa. Zoutenbayer seems to have found his groove a little bit more. That McLaren in front of us, that's not JPH, that's not Jordan Harding. Zoutenbayer up the inside, really, at turn 7? Wow, that would have been... Well, he's scared. He's scared Hatton off the road, actually. Contact between the two. I knew that was going to happen. It was just door-to-door contact. They both went for the same line. No one at fault there. But Zoutenbayer, I think, is going to go through. Hatton trying to stay on the inside, but that is a move complete. No one's fault there. That was just 2 drivers going for the same line, having taken 2 different lines, approaching that point in the corner. But Danny Zoutenbayer moves into the top 6. That was a fair old whack between the 2 of them. As we've got a yellow flag out there from Michael van der Waal, I think, has gone off the road. There's a yellow flag for Howard Dunn, who's moving slowly. I'm not sure. Just trying to look to the right-hand door panel. We can see the damage to Dan Hatton. I think it would be cosmetic, but I just want to see if there's any damage to the outside of that Ferrari. I'd be surprised if it was anything other than cosmetic, but yeah, it looks like a scuff more than anything else. It looked like the McLaren bore most of the impact there. Let's hope it hasn't done any major damage to that McLaren. He has dropped back a little bit there, as Hatton, but I don't think that's too bad. We'll just keep an eye on that. Well, that splits the field up a little bit, so let's just get a quick overview. We're an hour and 18 minutes remaining in this race. Mark Chapman leads, but look who's there with him. Tony Sokolov. The gap was out at 1.5 seconds earlier on. It's not anymore. Look at that. That's barely 1.5 blinks of an eye. Look at that. He's really putting the pressure on. I will keep an eye on the track map whilst I'm just giving the overview of the standings. Davy Zoutenbayer is 3rd. He's kind of on his own at the moment, but Jordan Harding is going with him. He has closed that gap down a little bit in the last few laps, and he's took another little bit of time out of him. Jeffrey Van Buren is 5th. Danny Zoutenbayer is 6th. You've got Dan Hatton in 7th. Stuart Packham is still closing the gap up to these guys. I'm just waiting for the time check to come through at the next split, and it's 8.1 seconds now. So Packham is making an impression. He's going to catch up to these 2. Maybe even Jeffrey Van Buren as well. But again, pit stops are going to be key. Maybe Packham will think about doing an undercut here to try and just cut that gap down even more than what it already is. Dennis Penders is 9th. Mark Gray's back inside the top 10, but he is definitely on his own. Then it's Michael van der Waal. Then it's Howard Dunn, who went off the road and was slow, as was Michael van der Waal. So I think those 2 have had contact. Fabio Matt's 13th at the minute. He's doing a really good job as Fabio. He's still on the lead lap as well, as is Ross Harris. Those are the last of the drivers on the lead lap. Joe Warner, absolutely solid in 15th. This could be the best drive I've seen from him ever, which is high praise indeed, because he has been improving all the time. It'd be comfortably his best result of the season. He's quite far ahead, in fact, of Rich Jarram, who's served his drive-through for his track limits offences. Danny Felix is 17th. Byford Rue is 18th. John Wells is 19th. It's Nick Lamming in 20th. Leighton Watkinson is 21st. Tony Manley is 22nd. We have lost, of course, Hartle Toby from this race thanks to his disconnection earlier. But this is the problem now that Mark Chapman's got. He's coming up to a whole heap of traffic. I want to get on board. I really hate the fact that this game, even sometimes using the keyboard, it just doesn't work. But I want to see how Mark Chapman navigates this traffic, because he's coming up to a whole heap of cars in front of him. And Tony Sokolov will take any opportunity he gets to go through, because you feel that if Sokolov gets through, he has the ability to drive away and run at the front on his own. But these two have been a class above everybody else. Ooh, a little bit wide that from Sokolov into turn one. That's going to cost them a tenth or two. And I will also point out that Zoutenbayer and Harding, they're not far apart as Lamming gets out of the way. So Lamming is the first one to spot it. Felix gets out of the way too. So that's good driving from those two green machines. They're right out of the way. Now it comes down to Ross Harris and Fabio Matt. They also need to move out of the way. And if that does happen in a nice, efficient manner, and Sokolov will be a bit frustrated by it. It's the right thing to do, of course, but he'll be frustrated that he wasn't able to take more of an advantage. A snap of oversteer from the Dayglow yellow Ferrari. And yeah, there you go. Ross Harris moves out of the way, and Fabio Matt is... Well, I thought it looked like he'd slowed down, but he didn't. Now he's got... Is he going into the pits? Oh, that is awkward. That is really awkward for Chapman. He's done well to get through there, but he's kind of... Fabio Matt, that was... Out of all the times for the race leaders to go round and go into the pits, that was probably the worst time for those two. Nothing Fabio Matt did wrong. He was trying to get into the pits. It was down to the race leaders to go around him. But that could have ended terribly. But somehow they've ended up as status quo through there. So Chapman and Sokolov carry on. Somehow haven't lost any time to one another. Wow. Well, so far we have had 48 minutes of the race here in the GT3s around this brilliant Red Bull Ring circuit. Mark Chapman has led since turn one. Got a great launch off the line, outbraked the Ferrari of Sokolov into the first corner. He's led ever since, but there has been a constant pressure from the 100 behind him. As we move into the gritty part of the race, and I say the gritty part because the drivers now are having to balance their tyre wear at the moment and risk and reward. Pit strategy is going to be critical as well, and these two aren't afraid to mix up their strategies. And they both still have a good shot at winning the championship. We're not talking about favourites. We're not saying these two are going to win the championship. You know, it could go anywhere at the minute. Especially with rounds 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15 to go. There's still a lot to play for. But these two are going to overtake Hartle Toby as it stands, who is the championship leader. We're waiting to see how Stuart Packham gets on, whether he catches up to the rest of the group inside the top 6. Don't rule the Bentley out. He's having a really strong drive at the minute. But this is the view that the Ferrari has had pretty much all the way through this race, and after that traffic it just seems to have stretched a touch. We're not talking much, you know, it's 3 tenths before, now it's 7 or 8 tenths. This is a really big mental battle now between the two of them. It's easier for Sokolov at the moment to try and harry and harass the Aston Martin in front of him because he's the attacker. He's the one who can decide when he wants to pit and take an undercut potentially with the new tyres. You know, for Chapman, he can't think like that. He's got to try and react when he can. He's in a bit more of a difficult position. I think that's Rich Jarren in front of us, who's just come out of the pits. So the Lambo will need to move to the side. Blue flag's flying. Jarren hasn't moved. Is he moving now? It looks like he's moving now. Yeah, so Lamborghini moves out of the way. Oh, this is going to be awkward for the Ferrari. Yeah, he's going to have to go a long way round. And that stretches the advantage out to over, well, almost a second. So he lost a touch of time there. Jarren probably didn't see him coming and then just trying to move out of the way mid-corner, which is always awkward. But alas, it's given a little bit more of a reprieve for Chappers. And next cars that are in front of them are all separated out, so they only have to navigate one car at a time rather than the big gaggle that they did before. Let's just have a little quick cycle back through. Davies out by running in 3rd place. He's about the same distance in front of Jordan Harden as he was 3 or 4 laps ago. Jeffrey Van Buren still in front of Danny Zoutenbayer. Dan Hatton has fallen back from those two in front of him. He's now only 5 seconds in front of Stuart Packham, so you know, Stuart's got 10 seconds to make up to get onto Danny Zoutenbayer, well, the two Ferraris effectively. Dennis Penders is running a lonely race in 9th, but I don't think he'll mind as long as he finishes there. Mark Gray's in 10th, Van der Waal is 11th. In the pits at the moment is the number 23. I almost got very confused myself for a moment then, because Ross Harris has overtaken Howard Dunn whilst he's in the pit lane, so Ross is into 12th. Fabio Matt is 14th, but he's made a pit stop in the Ferrari, as has Rich Jarren, which is when he came out. The only 2 drivers outside of the top 14 yet to make a stop are Danny Felix and John Wells, who was affected by that lap 1 incident. But this has worked out quite nicely for Mark Chapman. He's had a little bit of pressure taken off of him, thanks to the back marker. That gap is just eking out to over a second. Let's have a look at the timing lines as he goes across it for lap 35. Oh, it's just come back down to under a second now. Just having a look at the lap times. Davy Zoutenbayer consistently in the 29s for quite a while, and then had a couple of wobbles, and then he's back into the 29. So consistent lap stat from him. If you look at the front two, just always pretty much in the 29s apart from the one lap. So a measure of consistency from Sokolov and Zoutenbayer. Just also having a look at Jordan's lap times. He's been in the 29s as well. So coming towards the end of the stint, the drivers seem to be adapting quite nicely. The fuel's burning off as well, don't forget. And incredibly for Chappers, he's not actually got into the 28s yet, but he's not been putting a foot wrong. One lap through this whole race, he's done a 1 minute 30. I mean, that is consistency of the finest degree. But the thing for him is that this race is still far from over. He's still got that Ferrari right on his tail. And then that's a staggering lap that from Sokolov to do 28.8. Harding trying to find his way past Ross Harris. He's not caught the Porsche at the nicest of times there. The Porsche moves out of the way. That gap just creaks out again. So it was 2 seconds. It's now 2.1. Van Buren still in front of Zoutenbayer. Those two locked in their own private engagement. Here comes Dan Hatton towards the line. So he's 4.7 seconds away. And into the pits went Stuart Packham. Now, I said before he might think about the undercut, and this was probably the best time to have done it. He'll be able to take those tyres all the way to the end. Anyone trying to take tyres over 2 hours will be falling off a cliff after the 1 hour 15 minute mark. But really, your two closest fights are over first and fifth place. So will anybody in the bottom half of the top 8 react to Stuart Packham's pit stop? Because the Bentley's in 11th at the minute, whilst we watch Sokolov and Chappers continue to have their intense engagements. I think that's Michael van der Waal coming into the pits there. Just looking in the background, so Zoutenbayer's come through, Harding goes through, Jeffrey Van Buren and Zoutenbayer carry on. Just wondering if Hatton will react to this. No. He carries on. I want to have a look at the lap time from Packham in a few minutes. I just want to see what fresh tyres is going to do to that Bentley compared to those that are on their almost hour-long tyres at the moment. But still, we're still not yet halfway in this race. And there's still a lot of positions left to be resolved. Even though that Van Buren and Zoutenbayer are 8 seconds behind Jordan and Davy Zoutenbayer, you just never know how this race will play out. You just have to expect the unexpected. And whilst the Red Bull Ring is certainly, I would not call it a difficult circuit in the sense that it's you're less likely to make a mistake around here compared to other tracks such as Kyalami, for example, or Laguna Seca like we had last week. It is still a 2-hour endurance race. You know, people will start to get a little bit tired. There will be fatigue that will start to creep in. And the drivers have to just continue to pound around at a really consistent pace. Because if they don't, they'll be in trouble. And that is Davy Zoutenbayer into the pits. So the third place Dutchman is the first of this fight to decide he wants a new fresh set of boots on. He's done it just before the hour mark. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my lap times up here just to see. So, Dan Hatton, let's have a look on the last 2 laps. Last 2 laps is a 130.1 and a 130.1. If we look at Packham, who's on brand new tyres, so don't forget Hatton did a 30.1. Packham's at a 30.0. Let's just double check that. Maybe he's still getting those tyres warmed up. But I am surprised to see Davy Zoutenbayer to be the first one in. But could be a strong call. But where is he going to feed out? There's a couple of cars that are just coming down the start-finish straight. So he's going to have to lap them again. That's less than ideal. Packham's just coming around the final corner now, actually. So he's getting up to speed in the Nissan. The pit board is just here on the left. So he'll be able to gun it from this point on now. And the Nissan builds up through the gears and into turn 1. And he's out of turn 1. But look at this. Look at that gap. That is the difference an earlier undercut makes and the speed that Packham is showing today. Stuart Packham is not far away from a podium finish. Now we need to see whether his Tyres will last until the end of the race. By the evidence of the previous stint, it would suggest he can. But he is on track to be in this podium fight. And that would be driver of the day for me, if he could finish third after starting from 22nd on the grid. The only other person I think who would be in contention for that would be Chappers, if he holds on from Tony Sokolov, because that pressure has been race long as they now come up to the back of Fabio Matt and... Oh, is that a movement into the pits? Yes, they're both going in. So Sokolov, I don't think Sokolov would have gone in the pits then if Chappers had carried on, but he doesn't want to get undercut. So he's reacting to the Aston Martin in front of him. So this is a battle of the pit crews who will get on their mark straight away. They also have to make sure that they don't speed in the pit lane because that will give them a stop-go penalty. We've seen that before now. So Chappers is on his marks. Sokolov is a little bit further. We are halfway through the race. Jordan Harding leads here at the Red Bull Ring. So he's the first driver to lead this race other than Mark Chapman. Van Buren moves into second with Danny Zoutenbayer third. Dan Hatton's fourth. Dennis Penders is fifth, effectively, on the road. But we're looking at the pit crews between these two. It's so close. They're going to come out in front of Davey Zoutenbayer and Stuart Packham. There's no denying that. But where are they going to come out in relation to one another? Sokolov's crew served him. Sokolov is in front. He's going. Sokolov's crew have turned him around. And the Croatian has overtaken Mark Chapman in the pits. Wow. We have a potential change of race leader. And you could see Chapman just burning up the tyres as he laid a set of 11s on the exit of the pits. And the worst thing for Chapman as well is that he's come out behind Dennis Penders, who's not a lap down. He's on the lead lap, so Penders is going to be able to fight this position. Although Chapman trying to get on with it straight away. In fact, he does, but he clambers over the curbs. And that's just going to cost him more time. And Sokolov will be rubbing his hands together in glee. That was such a fast pit stop. You know, he's gained 3 or 4 seconds there. What happened in that pit stop? Jordan Harding, race leader. He is going to lead a lap. It's Jeffrey Van Buren who carries on. Danny Zoutenbayer into the pits. Dan Hatton's into the pits. As Dennis Penders is in front of Chapman, who is going to lose time. Hand over fist. And look, and the other key thing here is Chappers tries to find his way through. Is that Tony Sokolov got in front of Penders, so he doesn't have to fight him. But there's also 2 cars of lapped traffic between them. And that has cost Chappers immensely. Sokolov crosses the line in 5th place. Chappers is 5.5 seconds behind, and he must be wondering what happened there. That might just be a big death knell in the race for the victory for Chapman here. Which is a massive shame. But you pit crew, that's why they get paid what they get paid. It is still Jeffrey Van Buren who's got the lead of the race. I say still, he's been in control of it for a lap. It looks like he's carried on for another lap here. I say it looks like it because he's not gone down the pit lane line and he's carrying on. So I wonder if Van Buren is going to try and take those tyres. He's going to do something a lot of other people do in the 1 hour races. He's going to try and take those tyres longer and try and use the fresher compound and have a tyre offset later on in this race. We will see. Oh, as Joe Warner got that a little bit wrong. Jordan Harding has passed the Mustang and Mark Gray, who was running in 4th. He's 5th now. Now, there is also something else that I've noticed. Jordan Harding is 17 seconds in front of Stuart Pack. Yeah, well, 18 seconds in front of Stuart Packham, but 17 seconds in front of Davy Zoutenbayer. Now, what has happened there as Liam Watkinson goes off the road at turn 1? That's a huge gap. Did Davy have damage? Did he have an issue in his pit stop? Because he only came out 1 second in front. The other thing that confirms that Stuart Packham's in this race is that for what I thought was going to be a podium was that Dan Hatton and Danny Zoutenbayer have come up behind him. So has Jordan decided not to change tyres? That'd be incredibly brave if that is the case. But to be 16 seconds in front during a pit stop, I wonder what has gone on there. Mark Gray is still circulating. Did Jordan not have to take on any extra fuel, I wonder? Those are the questions that we need to ask. How did Jordan Harding get a 16-second advantage over Davy Zoutenbayer? Because he was 2.5 seconds behind when he pitted. 16 seconds at the moment. I wonder if there's anything to do with tyre wear here. 5 drivers still yet to pit in this race. Ross Harris is one of those in 10th place. So I say 5, it's 4 now. Dan Felix has just made his stop. John Wells still circulating. He's less than a second behind Joe Warner, who's made his pit stop in the number 75. Liam Watkinson still circulating. Tony Manley still circulating. He's doing a good job, Tony, actually, considering that he joined the race late. He's doing a Danny Zoutenbayer from the Nordschleifer back in season 9. Well, to be fair to Danny on that day, he did finish inside the top 10. Race leader in the pits. So Jeffrey Van Buren puts the Ferrari into the pit lane. Now, I am going to be keeping an eye on whether he emerges in front of Jordan. Because Jordan Harding has somehow managed to play himself into contention. Davy Zoutenbayer is catching Jordan quite quickly here. I definitely believe that Jordan's not made any changes on his tyres. I think he's carried on. I think that's where the time has come from in the pit stop. Yeah, he's really rapid right now, is Davy Zoutenbayer. Let's just have a quick look at the lap times. Jordan's going to go through. Sokolov is now just leaving the pit. Sorry, not Sokolov, is just taking the lead from Van Buren, who's been in the pits. And up to speed goes the Ferrari. And the Ferrari is going to be quite comfortably in front of Davy Zoutenbayer. So have those two decided not to change tyres? Oh, now this is going to come together with 52 minutes to go. Jeffrey Van Buren is comfortably clear of Davy Zoutenbayer. Mark Gray is now in the pits. And Davy is 8.1 seconds behind Jeffrey Van Buren, which is a 16-second swing. I mean, that's incredibly brave. That is incredibly brave. Oh, contact between Hatton and Zoutenbayer, and Hatton's off the road. We just caught it. Oh, he's managed to keep it on circuit, but there was just door-to-door contact. That's the second time they've had door-to-door contact in this race. The Ferrari and the McLaren. They can't keep away from each other. Get a track to yourselves, boys. Hands off. It's a public viewing audience. But those two have had a bit of a door-to-door rub, for want of a better phrase. And Tony Sokolov is stroking away at the front. He's 6.3 clear now of Chapper's. And I think Chapper's race has been undone by that pit stop. And that has separated the two out now, and it's really made it difficult for the Aston Martin driver to come back into this. But still, for Chappers, this would still be a really positive result for him, considering that his best result, he's had 2 podiums already this season. He missed last week, of course, at Laguna Seca, but he's back tonight. And he'd be on for his best joint result of the season. Oh, John Wells has lost it and pushed it into the wall on the exit of turn 4. He's just gone on the curb, and that was a bizarre incident. You don't see drivers typically spinning there in GT3 cars, but the M4 has found the barrier, and I think those tyres have cried enough. I think it's time for those to go into some recyclable factory so you can get them changed. Is John going to come into the pit? Yeah, he's going to come into the pit. I did think that would be the case. Stuart Packham still in 6th position. He's lost a touch of time to Davey on the last lap. He's 2 seconds back. I want to now just check over the times. This is important for the battle for the podium. So looking through where Harding's lap times have been, last 3 laps he's done a 29.8, 29.8 and a 29.7, so really demonstrating some strong pace. Jeffrey Van Buren, let's have a quick look. He did a 30.3, but he's only just been in the pits, so we need another lap or 2 from him, I think, before we get some representative data. With Davies out and by though, he's doing 29. He's done 29.2, his new personal best. That's something I just want to check. When did JPH do his best? That was 29.2 on lap 15. I'm either wondering he's not had to put any fuel in, or he's not changed tyres, or both. His pace is absolutely fantastic as Joe Warner becomes a brief lawnmower though. Does Danny Zaltenbayer? No, Danny Zaltenbayer's into the wall. In the pits. Well, for Danny Zaltenbayer, he was sliding off the road. Did he slide into the pits then? He's going to have to make a pit stop. He has hit the wall, so he might have to fix some damage. But the BAR 1999 Ricardo Zonta inspired livery, for those that don't know, do go and check out the original livery that Zonta would have had. Yeah, no, Zaltenbayer comes straight back out of the pit. I think he's spun the car and he's slid and drifted into the pit lane. So for Danny, he'll be really frustrated at that, because that has knocked him out of the fight for 7th. And he's going to be on his own. He's actually 11 seconds clear of Dennis Penders. What a very bizarre incident that was. Jeffrey Van Buren is 4th. He is being caught by Davy Zaltenbayer on fresh tyres. There's Dennis Penders. Chappers running in 2nd. He has closed the gap a little bit to Sokolov. Not by much, but that gap has come down a little bit as we emerge into the last 3/4 an hour of the race. Tony Manley still circulating on track. He is last, but he will score points. He's got Howard Dunn just up the road from him, and he's got Jordan Harding a little bit further back. Josip saying he's gutted he missed the race by 5 minutes. That's such a shame. I mean, he could have joined in later, Josip, to be fair. Tony did. He joined in 4 laps after everybody else did. Still going to score points. But it's good to see you. For those who are unaware, Josip Kosic looking to make an impact on the championship this season. Sadly not racing tonight. He is 12th in the standings. He won round 3. It's been great action all across the field. John Wells is there in 19th place. Byford Rue in 18th. Joe Warner still circulating well. Stuart Packham has fallen away from Davy Zoutenbayer in the last few laps. So I think for Packham, maybe his ceiling is here. Unless there's incidents around him. But Davy's race pace, it seems that in the first few laps of the stint, or the first 10 minutes of the stint, Davy gets the car up to speed and then just unleashes this hurricane of speed that he has. Because he's just looking at the gap, just seeing where Jeffrey Van Buren is. He's just gone through turn 1. I saw him up the road there. And I think Davy is catching him. Yeah, 129.4 from the Nissan on the last lap. Patton did a 30.1. JPH did a 29.5. So he is lapping a little bit quicker than Jordan, but not by much. Mark Gray did a 29.2, so it shows you what pace is in that Mustang now that it's fixed. There's clearly damage to it. Sokolov's on a 28.9. Jeffrey Van Buren's done a 29.6, so Zoutenbayer is catching the Ferrari by about half a second a lap. Give myself just a moment. So far, so good for Van Buren, running in 4th place. 11 seconds behind Jordan Hard at the moment. Dennis Pender's running in 9th position. It's kind of where he stayed all through the race, really. But for Dennis, it doesn't matter. He had a really good championship last season, did Dennis. I think people don't realise he did finish second. Last season, just through a measure of consistent point scoring. He's not a slouch in the slightest. He's still looking for that podium, of course, but he's 9th in the championship at the minute. He had 4th place at Laguna Seca last week, so it's nudging ever closer to it. Will it happen whilst I'm commentating on him, though? That is the key question. Sokolov has responded to Chappers. He's now 7 seconds clear of the Aston Martin, and I feel that fight is potentially over, which is a great shame, because I did enjoy the mental battle those two were having. But Sokolov in the pit stop just got the advantage, and 5 seconds was always going to be a difficult gap to try and close up on anyway. But for Chappers, I don't think he'd be too disappointed. I think his 2nd place is still a great drive. JPH, Jordan running in 3rd. It's be his first podium in quite some time. If he can pull it off. And a 4th place, don't forget it, round 2. That's the best result he's had this season. Didn't finish last week at Laguna Seca. got 11 seconds to Van Buren. He's got 6.6 to Davies Altenbayer, who I thought was going to be a shoo-in for a podium, but that pit stop that those two have done has completely defied belief. Ross Harris is quite close. There's a nice battle on track here, potentially, between the Porsche and the Ferrari. See if we can get properly on board with these two. Just skim our way through the drivers. There he is. Oh, that is wide from Fabio Matt. Big opportunity knocks for the Porsche. He's got momentum. The 244 to the inside at turn 1. And that little mistake for Fabio is going to put him on the outside line into turn 1. He leaves a bit of racing room. He's going to have to run off to the side of the track. And Ross Harris moves into 12th place. Ferrari looks like he's trying to come back here though, is Fabio. But the Joker liveried Ferrari has to remain in 12th place's rear view mirror because he's sat in 13th right now. Oh, Fabio getting a tighter line there. I thought that was a very, very late lunge, but it turned out not to be the case. And this is another part now, the next part of this race, which is critical, as Harris runs a touch wide there at turn 6. Fatigue. You know, the drivers are used to doing 1 hour races. It's part of the nature of ACC Race Nation. It's what most of the season is comprised of. However, the problem that they have is that they don't do that many 2 hour races. We will start to see mistakes. We've seen John Wells in the barrier, which I'm going to put down to fatigue and the fact that his M4 was on very exceptionally old tyres as Liam Watkinson comes back into the pits for a new fresh set of boots. But we will start to see mistakes happening from about 30 minutes onwards, I think, if they do occur. That's normally the time people start to think, oh, there's not too much to go, there's only a quarter of the race, and then they think there's 20 minutes to go, and that's where the issues start to come out. I remember last season at Bathurst, was Fabio, I briefly thought was going to go for a move at the inside there. I remember towards the last 20 odd minutes of the race at Bathurst, there were so many cars off the road. Admittedly, it's a very different type of circuit, Bathurst, to Austria, but the point stands. Mental fatigue is a big thing in these cars. And for Ross Harris, he's now going to deal with the Lamborghini behind him. Now, the thing for Ross is that he knows the Lamborghini's strengths and weaknesses. He drove that car for a number of seasons. The car's not changed. The driver might have done, but the car has still got the same strengths and still has the same weaknesses that it did when he was driving it. Now he's got to defend them. I feel like Ross has been in a fight all the way through this race. Oh, Fabio was so much more braver on the brakes there. Down into second gear for Matt, but he's just going to stay there. I do have to say one thing. I do refer to Fabio of his first name more than I do of his second, because his surname is Matt, it's M-A-T. And I feel like Fabio is probably a little bit more appropriate in this sense because we can immediately identify him. He's got a bit of slipstream on the Porsche. Is he going to close that gap up? He won't in the braking. He will in the braking zone, but he won't be close enough for an overtake right now. Hello to everyone who is still watching this event. There's been a lot going on. Ooh. Fabio definitely looks like he's got more confidence on the brakes in that Lamborghini, in that Ferrari rather, compared to the Porsche. My apologies on the misrepresentation of the car that Fabio we've been on board with. I know it's a Ferrari, but for some reason my own commentary fatigue has just kicked in there. It is Rich Jarron who's driving the 878 Lamborghini. So a bit of a Wally moment for myself there, do apologise. But this is the closest fight at the minute. Oh, big twitch of oversteer for the Porsche into turn 9, down through the gears. Can Fabio get up the inside? No, he can't. He might have rushed that a little bit too much there, and that's just giving about a second, best part of a second's worth of a gap to Ross to just breathe into, really. I think Fabio was so keen on getting a good exit at the turn 10 that he ended up compromising himself, and that is, it's going to mean he's going to have to take another couple of laps to try and build up and get onto the back of him again. But just let's have a little quick scan through as we approach the final quarter of this race. So Tony Sokolov still leads the way at the front. We've got Mark Chapman in second position, 7.6 seconds behind. That gap is kind of ebbing and flowing, but it's not really going one way or the other. Jordan Harding is on his way to a shock podium here, thanks to that incredible pit stop. He's in third place right now. And that gap between himself and Jeffrey Van Buren is not changing in fourth. Davy Zoutenbayer, that gap between himself and Jeffrey Van Buren hasn't changed either. He's in fifth position. Stuart Packham up from 22nd on the grid to 6th place. Great drive. But as I said before, I feel like that ceiling, I think he's hit it now. He is lapping at about the same speed as Daniel Hatton in 7th place. He was still seeking that first podium with ACC Race Nation. Danny Zoutenbayer is in 8th place after having his Tokyo Drift moment into the pit lane, which is one of the more weirder events that we've seen. Dennis Penders is in 9th position. Mark Gray is circulating quite well actually in 10th, but he's just kind of on his own at the minute. Michael van der Waal is 11th. Seems to have got his problems resolved with the balance of that car, but first half of the race has kind of cemented his fate, really. Ross Harris has been overtaken by Fabio Matt, and they're just being lapped by Danny Zoutenbayer. So Fabio's got to get this right, because he's got a Ferrari between himself and the Porsche, but they're not fighting over the same position. Let's just keep an eye on this. Oh, contact between the two, and Fabio Matt's onto the grass. And Ross Harris, I think, is going to go through. Yeah, he does. Oh, that was a peculiar incident. Danny Zoutenbayer has hit everybody's door on circuit today. His brother's running in the top 5. Maybe he's got a bit of brother envy going on, and he's trying to slam the door like he would have done when he was a kid. But alas, bizarre incident, and it's cost Fabio Matt a position. So after getting past the Porsche, he's got to find a way back through. So he's in 13th. Rich Jarram's 14th. Now, Rich Jarram, considering that he had a drive-through before, is really putting some good laps in today. He's not that far away from these battling two. Just want to see what the gap is between them. It's 10 seconds as they come across the line. I wonder if they're on the same lap. We'll have to check that. It's gone a little bit pear-shaped today for Dunn, unfortunately. But I think the important thing for Howard is that the pace is there. He's just had a bit of an unfortunate race. The Red Bull Ring can be like that for some drivers, but he has shown some speed today. And I think a little bit of a better rub of the green, quite literally on his bonnet, it might have turned out differently. But it's one of those races. He's still circulating. He's going to get some good points, and that is the key thing in this championship. Danny Felix is 16th. Joe Warner's running in 17th place, still on for his best result of the season. He's about to get lapped by Danny Zoutenbayer. Jacob Byford-Rue is 18th in the Tron car. John Wells is 19th. Nick Lammin still circulating inside the top 20. Liam Watkinson is 21st. And Tony Manley is still racing in 22nd, despite starting the race late. Well done, Tony. Really good to see you out there on circuit in the 318 Aston. But Fabio Matt, we're going to go back to these two, because I'm really curious to see Because we have a bit of a weird... well, it's not a visual glitch, it's just a bit... I've never seen that before. On the inside of the Ferrari, you can see the reflection from the driver's steering wheel was reflected onto the roof lining of the car. That was a bit bizarre. But Fabio Matt, after getting past Ross once, he's going to have to try and do it again, as we are on lap 57 of this race, as we move into the final quarter on the clock. 30 minutes and 30 seconds to go. But Fabio has got a better car on the brakes. I'd potentially argue he could be quicker than Ross at the moment. Oh, as he looks down the inside. I just want to have a quick scan through just for Rich Jarram. So there's Ross Harris. He's in 12th place on 57 laps. And Rich Jarram is also on lap 57. So he's catching these two in the fight for 12th place. We ride on board with not the hunter but the hunted. And just see that when the Ferrari gets close, it's always under braking as contact, and Ross Harris is round. He's just about kept it out of the wall. And I was saying that Fabio Matt's got so much more confidence on the brakes. That was an evident display of braking performance and good race craftsmanship from Fabio Matt. Good sportsmanship. He let the Porsche go back through, but Ross has gone wide. I think Fabio has decided he's going to stay behind again, so he's not going to take advantage. But it's brought Rich Jarram to within 6 seconds now of these two. Fabio Matt's going to go down the inside at turn 3. He's going to overshoot the corner, but he just about gets it stopped. Lovely switch back from the 244. Bit of a lag synchronous issue there, but the Porsche is just about through. There it goes, move completed for the Porsche. That was a beautifully timed switch back that from there. Josip saying, what was the pole time today? Let's just have a quick look at that for you whilst these two are having a bit of a fight. Fastest lap was from Tony Sokolova, 128.172. So hopefully that'll answer your question. Rich Jarram will be thinking about making this a trio fight in the final half an hour. I think he will get there in the next 3 or 4 laps. He is now just 5 seconds behind. He's about a second and a bit quicker each lap. And because they're fighting so hard and they're fighting for position, they're going to just take more and more time out of one another. Yeah, he was almost a second quicker than Fabio on that last lap, so really working out well for the Lamborghini. We're going to have 3 cars fighting over the same position. You can see, look, if we ride on board with Rich, you can see the two of them going into the air and coming out of it. And the other thing, well, he was catching them, and then he got a bit too excited and missed his braking point. But the thing for Rich is that he's also got Mark Chapman in front of him, and that's a good car to be behind. He'll learn a few tips from Chappers in terms of where he can gain time. Hello to everyone who is watching in the chat. It's really great to have you on board watching at the moment. If anyone is wondering, at the moment, Liverpool are 5-1 up against Eintracht Frankfurt. If you weren't wondering that and you didn't care, don't worry about that information. That's just for those people who actually do care, which is me. So, lap 59, 26 minutes to go. Fabio swings so far to the left-hand side of the track there. They are going to get blue flagged, though, these two, because Chappers is right with them again. So, they're going to get lapped. And Fabio swings to the right hand side. He moves out the way, and I want to just follow Fabio here, because when he lets him through, is he going to switch straight back underneath? Well, whoa, in fact, he got it all wrong. I think Fabio was just being a little bit too cautious. And that's cost him more time in relation to Ross. In fact, Ross Harris is 2 seconds up the road. And Rich Jarham is 2.5 seconds behind now. So this is a nice fight over 12th place. Josip saying, not surprised not to see anyone in the 27th. I'm sure you would be, Josip, if you're saying that, to be fair. Josip is a rapid driver. He can find some lap times in his day. The fastest lap, actually, for those that are wondering, in the GT3s around here, is a 127. A 127.2 by a bloke called Jürgen Alzen. He did that he did it a few months ago, actually, in the GT3 Series Regional Championship in an M4. So that is the fastest lap time. So the guys on pole were within a second of that lap time as Chappers laps Ross Harris. But Rich Jarham is catching. He's 1.2 seconds behind. Let's just go back here. So we've got Harding still in third place. Just a quick update, just so we know where we are. Davy Zoutenbayer has caught up to Jeffrey Van Buren. So those tyres, are they starting to fall off the cliff? Or did Van Buren make a mistake, which I'm inclined to believe he did, because he's now 15 seconds off Harding. So I think it was a mistake that's brought that on. Packham is 6th. He has got a gap to Daniel Hatton now, so it's 6.2 seconds. That's not going to change. They're all relatively close together as Fabio Matt runs deep at turn 3 and Rich Jarham follows his line. They're all getting excited. They know that there's a fight on their hands for the last 20 odd minutes of this race. As Rich runs deep into turn 4 and he's put a wheel in the gravel. The other thing as well is just to make a note here that, yes, I know that Rich Jarham is catching up, but Howard Dunn's not far away either. He's 8 seconds away. In fact, I think that gap might be a little bit less than 8 seconds. Let's just have a look as he comes across the timing split here. 6.4. I mean, can Howard Dunn make it a 4-car fight for 12th place? I mean, that would be outstanding if we got that at the end. Davy Zoutenbayer is definitely interested in getting 4th place. 1.3 seconds now behind Jeffrey Van Buren. Just want to have a look at his last lap, actually, just so we've got the info on record. So 29s, 30s, 29s, 29s, 30s. No, it doesn't look like he's made any obvious mistakes. So I will take that back. I will take that back, Jeffrey. That was on me. It just seems that Davy Zoutenbayer, his race pace is proving ominous as he's in the 29s. He's just taking time and hand over fist. And just to compare his lap times to Harding, who's up the road and has got a bit of a buffer for that podium place, Harding's still in the 29s. I mean, it's going well. It's really going well. This is looking like a first podium of the season and for quite some time for the number 16. What about 12th place? Well, there's Ross Harris, and Fabio Matt now has rejoined the 1 second window. Rich Jarham's going to have to find himself back into some form and close that gap back down, because he was right there with them until he made that mistake. And there is the man who should be higher up than this, but is in 15th, Howard Dunn. He's got a back marker in front. No, it's not a back marker. It's Dennis Penders, who's just put a lap on him, actually. So apologies to Dennis. He's just running his own race at the moment. Just looking to see where Dennis is. He's a lap down. Yeah, that's fine. But it's been... I was just about to say, it's been good fun watching these two challenging each other on the circuit. But with that slide, I thought that was going to be the end of it for Fabio then, at turn 1. He's really using the extremes of the track here. And I don't know if he's using the braking zone when he's on the curb. I don't know if that action where it's slamming into the ground, whether that is a sort of quirk within the game, it's helping him stop a little bit better. I don't know if that's the case, but Always are some interesting little quirks in sim racing. Oh, Fabio just has the confidence to send one deep into the corner. Coming up to just over 20 minutes remaining in the race here. And this is one of two close fights on circuit. The other one we didn't see because Jeffrey Van Buren has been overtaken by Davies Altenbayer and the Nissan is up to fourth. The only problem for the Nissan, and sadly, is that he's 16 seconds behind Jordan Harding. Unless he can gain... Whoa, massive snap of oversteer for Davey. How he recovered that. There's been some really exquisite car control. But that Nissan was pointing the other way at one point. Great car control from Davey. He's up in fourth place. He needs to make sure he doesn't slide off the road. And nor does Fabio Matt, who's still trying to find a way through. He is absolutely trying everything he can to get past. And he was passed before until he had that incident with Danny's Altenbayer, which was a bit of a peculiar one. He's gone down the inside! How late was that? He sent it from another city in Austria. What an overtake that is! I tell you what, if you weren't awake in this race, you are now, because that was astonishing. What a move! He went past Ross Harris without so much as "I'll buy your leave." He flew past him into turn 4. That is one of the best overtakes I've seen in this season. That was brilliant. I think Ross will watch that back and just think, yeah, fair enough. That was completely a legitimate overtake. Brilliant overtake. Fabio Matt, take a round of applause. He's up to 12th and off he goes. And for him, can he now pull away from Ross Harris after such a long fight with him? And having got through earlier, sent it from a different postcode to go past the Porsche. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Ross is closing the gap, but I don't think his confidence on the brakes is the same as the Ferraris, and sure enough it isn't. Oh, but Matt runs deep. Don't lose your place now after having the greatest overtake I've seen this season, Fabio. Needs to make sure he gets his braking zone right here into turn 4. Covers the inside line, make sure that Harris isn't near him, and now he just needs to build up a bit of... regain some of that confidence he's just shown and get on setting some good lap times. Harris is looking to the inside, but I think that's more just filling the mirrors than anything else. Fabio Matt up into 12th place. Jeffrey Van Buren still keeping Zoutenbayer honest, but Jordan Harding's on his way to a podium. That gap now 20 seconds. The McLaren is breezing up to a great result. He won't care if it's a distant third place. He'll just care that it's a third place. And Rich Jarram is going into the pits, so a peculiar one that to pit so late in the race, but he'd already served his pit stop, so I'm just wondering whether his drive-through earlier and then he decided not to pit in the end. That's the only thing I can think of. So that promotes Howard Dunn up to 14th position. He's 7 seconds behind Fabio and Ross Harris. There's a little fight going on here between Nick Lamming and Byford Rue. I wonder if Nick Lamming can try and make a move on the M4. It'd be nice to see Lamming make an overtake, considering his race hasn't really got going. Oh, Byford Rue sideways. You saw the car counter-steering through turn 9 and counter-steering again through turn 10. And actually got a good exit as a result of that. Let's just see if we can get to him nice and quickly. That would be great. Game just does its own thing. Another snap of oversteer from the M4 in front of us. We ride on board with Lamming. He's been having a pretty decent season, to be honest. I think just today it's just not worked out for him in the way that he ideally would have wanted, I think. Oh, hey, up down the inside. There's another nice, lovely move up quite late. And through he goes. He crowds Byford Rue off the road. He might be a little bit annoyed about that, actually. But with all due respect, Lamming was down the inside. And the McLaren moves himself up out of a number that begins with a 2. And he's into 19th position. So Nick Lamming, he's had 2 DNFs in a row. No, that's not going to be the case today. He's on his way to a 19th place. I think there's more to come from him as Byford Rue goes circulating off the road there. He's just about got away with it. And Jeffrey Van Buren's fallen behind Stuart Packham. Well, Stuart Packham's ceiling was not 6th place, it was 5th in the end. And Dan Hatton's found Van Buren, so Jeffrey's had a mistake out there. Maybe trying to keep up with Davies out and Byers, just put him out of the circuit. In fact, Davies out and Byers took 4 seconds out of Jordan on one of those laps there. That's a nice exit actually from Hatton. It's all coming together in these last 15 minutes. There's more action than you can shake a stick at the minute, and Hatton looking to the inside. Just going to try and get on board with him there. We got there's Penders, but we'll go with Van Buren instead. We'll look at it from the driver who's defensive. He runs wide. Oh, that Ferrari doesn't look as quick as it once did. 69 laps done so far. And the McLaren is filling the rear view mirrors that line up the side of this Ferrari 296 GT3. It's a nice entry into the final corner actually for Van Buren, and that's just going to relieve a little bit of the pressure from the back of him. Van Buren's defending to the inside. We cut to the external cameras. Hatton tries to go around the outside. Is he going to try and cut underneath? No, he's not quite able to get on the brakes hard enough to stop the car to do the switchback. Well, Hatton is looking primed and ready. He's going to try again at turn 4. A couple of drivers did this to Van Buren before but couldn't make it through. And again, he just stays in front. Stays in front at the moment. There's Stuart Packham up to 5th place. Some drive there. Ross Harris can't keep up with Fabio Matt. He's just distancing him now. And just to make a note that Howard Dunn is catching these two, and whether he'll catch them by the end is another question. Davies out and by just looking at that gap, it's a 130.1 on that lap. Look at Hatton is all over the rears spoiler of the Ferrari in front of us. These two cars are so well evenly matched. As Hatton looks to the inside, is he putting his car there? Is he going to try and make a lunge? No, he's just putting his car there to keep filling those mirrors. Massive diffuser on the back of the Ferrari and a good exit from the Dutchman in front of us. So Hatton's got to get creative. Through the gears, 5th gear, down the gearbox they go into 1st for turn number 3. Nice exit from the Ferrari, but a better one from the McLaren. And I think he's going to have to go defensive again, is Van Buren. The slipstream working in Hatton's favour. He's got a bit deep, there's a bit of contact and Van Buren goes round. I'm going to be honest. From my perspective, they both ran a bit deep into the corner. Hatton's tried to go underneath and they've made contact. I'll leave that one to the stewards. I know that Van Buren won't be happy about it, but I think when he sees it from that perspective, he might understand it a little bit more. But it seemed like such a smallest of nudges has just turned that Ferrari around, sadly. What it does mean, though, is that I was about to say, whilst those two were fighting side by side, that they were catching Packham in front of us, who is in 5th position, who is losing time. He's just done 133.1 on that lap, and despite Hatton having an accident with Van Buren, he took 2 seconds out of him. 10 minutes to go in this race. It's still all to play for. Sokolov is under 10 seconds of the race leader. That's Chappers in 2nd place. Harding is 3rd. That gap is not coming down any more than what it was earlier. So I think the next fight is going to be between Hatton and Stewart. Mark Gray's right with Dennis Penders. We cut into that at a good time. He's on the inside before we get to turn 9. He's going to have the best line for this corner. And can Mark Gray get a spot into 9th place? He can. And I said before that Mark Gray was demonstrating some good speed. He's just had a bit of rotten luck today. But the Ford moves into 9th place. And I suspect he's going to drive away from Dennis, to be fair here. Because that Ford really should be in the top 5. But it's not been his day today. And I tell you, someone else who's there. Look at this. I said Howard was catching Ross Harris. And he is doing. So it's all just starting to come back together. In these final few minutes of the race, Howard Dunn wants to try and go past Dennis Penders, but they're not fighting over the same position, so it's a bit frustrating for him. So I'll try and get on board, actually. 1.8 seconds the gap between Packham and Hatton. Whoa, just cutting on board to the Dunmobile, sliding out of the corner. And he's got Mark Gray lapping the Porsche. And the other thing for Harris is that he's got to let the Ferrari through as well, and that's going to lose him a chunk of time, and Howard Dunn will be happy with that. Oh, we tried to take advantage of the Porsche being slow off the corner, but almost sent it into the gravel trap. Let's just try and get a better perspective of this. There we go. So Dunn, can he get into 13th? I think he might be too far away from Fabio Matt to get 12th. He has since pulled away from this fight here. 132.7, much quicker than Harris on that last lap, but then again Harris was dealing with traffic. Don't forget that fight for 5th place. I'm keeping an eye on the timing tower for Packham and Hatton, but they seem gapped from one another at the minute. It looks like they've got a car between them as well. Down through the gears for the AMR V8. One thing that they probably will help for Harris at the moment is that he's got Penders in front of him, and that's a good car. It's a quicker car to be just following in the wheel tracks, a little bit of slipstream as well, which will give him some ideas on lines, but it could also be a hindrance for him. He might be looking at what's going on in front of him as, look at this, Harris is having to defend into turn 9. Oh, don't move across on him. Is he going to go around the outside? Surely not. I mean, I've never seen anyone go around the outside, and yeah, that would be the case still, but my goodness, that's some overtake in opportunities have been presented in this latter part of the race. To the outside we go at turn 1. I think Ross is going to try and outbrake him. He does, but is he going to make the corner? He does make the corner, but he leaves a big AMR V8 hold for that number 23 to slot into. And Howard Dunn gets that move complete, and he's up to 13th, but he's going to have to defend that from Harris, who will try and attack him back into turn 3, which he does. And the Porsche takes the place back. Nice racecraft between these two. 5 minutes remaining in the session. 5 minutes to go, pretty much. And it's all to play for. Just going to very quickly cut ahead. Yeah, there's Hatton in 6th place. He's a second behind Stuart Packham, but he's got a John Wells stuck between himself and the Bentley. That BMW needs to get out of the way. Otherwise, you're going to be in all sorts of trouble. But the AMR's trying to find a way through. I feel like this overtake is probably going to be the first to happen. If it does, it's got another good run going towards turn 9. He's going to try it around the outside again. He's giving him the racing room. Oh, he's a chance for turn 10. Definitely would never seen anyone go around the outside of turn 10. But he's just putting Harris offline. He's just putting him into uncomfortable positions, and he won't like that. Battle for 5th place is properly on now. John Wells has moved out of the way. Big snap of oversteer. Well, I say big snap, a little snap of oversteer for Howard Dunn. Now, this is the chance this time. He's got to really line this one up. Less than 5 minutes to go. To the outside line. Track limits for Tony Manley. Oh, he's going to break a little bit earlier. Try and get the undercut. But to be fair to Ross Harris, he's done a great job with that. And fends off the Aston Martin for now. They have got Davies Outenbuyer coming through just behind us. And Stuart Packham's in the pits. Wow. That has ended that fight between Hatton and Stuart Packham. We'll have to find out why he's gone into the pits there. That seems interesting to me, why that's gone on, but never mind. And I'm just looking at the minute. Yeah, there we go. So the Nissan goes past. So that's Davies Outenbuyer in 4th place, lapping these guys. Oh, snap of oversteer for Davey. That wasn't ideal. Now, where does Ross Harris get out of the way? Because he's in an awkward position here. He's got to be very clever now. He's going to let him go through at turn 9, and he's going to leave the door open. He's left the door open for Howard Dunn to slot through at turn 10. And that was good race craftsmanship from Howard Dunn to get through. Ross just let the Nissan through, probably at the wrong point of the track, to be honest. Howard moves into the 13th place, and I think this time he's far enough ahead to not have to worry about Ross Harris making a lunge at turn 3. It would have to have come from a different country to have dived from that bar back, but there we go. Howard Dunn's race is going to end up with him potentially in 13th place by the seams of things. But this has been brilliant to watch today. It's been absolutely wonderful to see the drivers going hammer and tongs. They're still going hammer and tongs because Dunn has not pulled away from Harris yet. But on the brakes, it just seems like that Porsche just, I don't know if it's whether it's a confidence element for Harris or whether it's just the Porsche. It doesn't have that great brake. That's wide from Dunn. That's a big mistake through the left-hander, and that's just going to put the Porsche right back on his rear spoiler. He's going to have to defend. He's really defending heavily, is Dunn. Down through the gears, actually compromises his line through turn 9. But fortunately for him, Harris wasn't close enough to take advantage of that line, and the status quo remains. 1 minute 35 to go on the clock. Looks like these guys have got this lap and the next one, so it's the penultimate lap of this 2-hour event. It's been great to watch, really great to watch. I think everybody has enjoyed it. None more so than our about to be race winner. But we'll talk about Tony Sokolov in about a minute's time. He is now on his final lap. He's crossing that start-finish line. And what has been a very long slog for these drivers is about to come to an end. And let us get to the man who's had a challenge to get to the race lead. The first hour of this race didn't go his way. His launch off the line wasn't bad, but his bravery compared to Chapper's wasn't the same, and that was a bold move from the Aston Martin to get the lead. Following from that point onward, he just shadowed the Aston Martin. Never quite got close enough to make an overtake, but you felt that he had this speed in him. And the pit stop that got him in front of the Gulf-inspired AMR V8 was fantastic, and that's put him into the lead of the race. And since then, the Aston Martin driver has not been seen in the same bit of tarmac as the Croatian. Sokolov has been fantastic tonight. He's underlying his championship credentials with this drive. He's got some work to do to get back to the top step of the championship, but he's going to start that climb back to the top with the top step on the race podium today. Tony Sokolov rounds the final corner here at the Red Bull Ring. It's a victory, his second of the season for Tony Sokolov here in ACC Race Nation. A great result for him. Mark Chapman is going to come through in second place, having completed 80 laps. A great drive for him in the end. He led the first half of the race, but I don't think he'll be too disappointed with that. Danny Zoutenbayer has seen the checkered flag in 7th place. This is a good story for all to behold. Jordan Harding, we'll have to find out about that pit stop of his, because it's put him in this position. 3rd place for the McLaren man. He will be delighted with that one. Great effort from Jordan to get on the podium, his first in quite some time. He'll be chuffed to bits. Davy Zoutenbayer, so close to a podium, but it will be 4th in the end for the Nissan driver. His best result ever in ACC Race Nation. Delighted with that performance, I'm sure. And he should be proud of that. It was a really strong drive from him. And I think without that miracle pit stop from Harding, he could be getting a podium today. Dan Hatton, he was in the fight all the way through this evening. He did have a bit of a weird incident with Van Buren, which I'm sure will be discussed later, but still 5th over the line. Great drive from the number 55. John Wells crosses the line too, and it'll be Jeffrey Van Buren who will finish in 6th place. The last of the drivers to cross the start-finish line. Oh, there we go. Let's go through these results. It's Tony Sokolov, your race winner by 13 seconds in the end. Jordan Harding takes 3rd place on the podium in the McLaren, the number 16. Davy Zoutenbayer is 4th. His best result of ACC Race Nation. Daniel Hatton will be in 5th place. He'll be happy with that result. Jeffrey Van Buren is in 6th. Danny Zoutenbayer in 7th place in the end. Stuart Packham, after a pit stop late on the race, puts himself down to 8th. Mark Gray getting into the top 10 after a difficult day, but still a good result for him in 9th. Dennis Penders rounds out the top 10. Michael van der Waal in his first proper event of the season. He'll be chuffed with 11th place. Showed some good pace, but something not quite right with the balance of that car at the start of this race. Fabio Matt with the overtake of the season so far in 12th place. You then have in 13th, the number 23 of Howard Dunn. Ross Harris is 14th. Rich Jarram got 15th in the end, just a second and a bit clear of Danny Felix. John Wells was 17th. Joe Warner 18th. Great drive from Joe to get 18th. Jacob Byford-Rue in 19th and Nick Lamming in 20th after being a little bit higher than that earlier on in the race. We had Liam Watkinson outside of the top 20 as well in 21st or 22nd. We don't have the ability to scroll down through the event leaderboard for reasons unbeknownst to me. But what a really great race that was towards the end. It all came together. It was really good fun to watch everybody battling out there on circuit. We did, of course, have Tony Manley finishing 22nd. I'm glad that the Time and Tower has just dipped down for us there to do that. And we did sadly lose Hartle Toby during the race. What could have been for him? I feel like he would have been in the mix. But alas, his disconnection did not help him in the slightest. Well, that was a great race to watch. It was really fun to commentate on. It always is to do the 2-hour events here with ACC Race Nation. We are now going to be having a week break. It's the first of the season breaks here in the championship for season 11. But the team and drivers will be back for round 7 on the 5th of November at Barcelona, which I'm sure will be a great event to see. I hope I'll be there for round 7. If not, I'll be definitely there for Paul Ricard for round 8 to commentate on more superb action here in ACC Race Nation. But that's it from me, Jack Millington, your commentator for this championship. You've joined us for a spectacular event, and wherever you might be in the big wide world, have a good one, and we'll see you after the season break.